Hello and welcome to another interview of the Online Echo. So we're doing a bunch of interviews with various socially active people, and joining us today is Hanka from Belarus, and I'm Uik, and that's Ramia.
Ramia. Hi, Hanka.
Hi guys.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, why don't we start with a little bit of an intro about you? What are you doing here?
Well, I'm enjoying life in Greifswald. No, actually, I'm also volunteering in a way here in StraZe, and more in particular in a voluntary project which is called Turbina Pomerania, and working with international volunteers, as you know, also building the house, doing other jobs with different initiatives in the house. And I would say that I'm a voluntary enthusiast or an enthusiastic volunteer.
So you had experiences before coming to Germany of
Oh
volunteering?
yes. Yeah, I believe that volunteering is really a great way of being helpful, of being active, of living your life meaningfully. And that's what I started to do since I remember myself. Maybe the first hyperactive steps of that activities were done already when I was a student. And there I tried to be a part of different groups. We did a group with helping kids who turned out to be in orphanages, or we did some funny shows and also traveled with them around the country and get to know kids in different villages and tell them about how fun it is to be at university and so on. So this started with small things, and then somehow, I don't remember how exactly it happened, but I realized that I got to the point where when I see a project or activity or something that I really like or really appreciate and I feel respect for, I have a tendency to come and ask, how can I help you? I want to be a volunteer with you. Can I do something together with you? Can I don't know, translate, or can I do some small jobs, or can I do some promotion, or can I connect you to some other contacts who could be useful for you? So, and this way showed to me to be really meaningful, really successful for me, for doing stuff, for getting to know different people. And this is how I turned out to be also here in StraZe, here in Greifswald, I guess. Because I saw the project, I really appreciated the people having a dream and just trying to do it any ways possible, and then just said, okay, hey, how can I help you? I said, yeah, well, come build with us,
So,
or come work with volunteers.
do you want to tell us more about what is the StraZe as a concept and what is it about?
Oh, well, yeah, in a way, I think everybody could also for themselves go to straze.de and learn more, because there are lots of videos and now lots of crowdfunding opportunities to support this project also greatly. StraZe is a big dream of the people here in Greifswald to make a community center with lots of interesting initiatives. Christoph was also going to be there, their office, and there are a lot of educational, creative, I don't know, working with hands, crafts initiatives, different things, people coming together. Also a huge hall for great cultural events, concerts, cinema, and so on. And also another part of this great house is WG, so that means people are living there, and we're 37 or 38 people at the moment living in the same place, trying this community living, enjoying it, learning from each other, learning about ourselves and how we behave in such a big group, and so on. So it's a great thing, and the people who started it, they part of them first had a dream to build a ship, a boat, like a ship to go to the sea, and they found a very old ship which is called Lovis, and they bought it. It was in ruin. They got it from Denmark all the way to Germany, and they repaired it in several years. They learned how to sail and how to do projects, and this is one of the great things that they're doing. And they're going on this ship and doing different youth exchanges or different projects for different groups, doing really great stuff. And then they decided to go to so far as Spitsbergen on that ship, and then they realized, okay, if we can do that, now if we have a ship, we can start to dream about the house.
Wow.
So this is how, I think in 2010 they found this house in Greifswald and decided to renovate it, to get it, because for a long time it was the house. It's more than 100 years old, and it was a cultural center for the town. There was a dance hall, and they tell that the man who started to build it, he even invited a circus there, and there was an elephant on the stage. And and during the time there were different things happening to it, like history, and there were some refugees living after the Second World War, and then the university had the building for some time. Some people remember it as a sports hall, and when they come to see the house, like, yeah, there's my sweat on the on the wall. Yeah, I remember this very well. And then also some people were living there, and then for some time there was nothing there, and some developer just bought it. But the group, they really wanted to do something great with it, and they had different initiatives. Different people were involved in different activities, and they wanted to have this house as the open house for the community, and also live there and learn and share from each other. And yeah, so with some difficulties, after 3 or 4 years, they bought the house, and now they started to renovate it. And then since 2014, it's been under renovation, and now it's a huge big moment of
Yes.
it. In October, we're going to finish the renovation and open it for public. So hopefully it will happen with all the online thing, activism, offline coming to online, but hopefully it will happen. And if not in October, then definitely some other time. It will be great. It's going to be amazing. And yeah, this house is going to open. This, I think, also very much of StraZe is coming together with my philosophy of life. Lots of people are volunteering there. You guys also were volunteering there, building, and you know how it is. And there are a lot of people coming and living their part of help to that huge project, and it's really amazing.
That's true.
Yeah, it's really, I've heard the story of how they acquired the house, and it was really quite a really impressive story. I mean, a long process, and it's really quite
Yeah, tough. But if you have a bigger group and you have a lot of inspiration and you have a dream, then
It's
you see
possible.
what can be working. Yeah, and also maybe as inspiration for our viewers from Christoph, most of these people just studied together at Greifswald University. Many of them studied landscape ecology, which is very popular here. A lot of these people are really into ecology or activism or education. And this also shows, like, when students have something in mind and they come together, and most of them are actually originally not from Greifswald.
Mhm.
Many of them came from different places in Germany or different places in the world, and they were so inspired by the project that they decided to stay here to work on that. And it's really, I don't know, for me, a great example of how it can work if all the people go from this ego point and come to echo, or come to community living, or come to doing something great together. This is a great example of how it can actually work.
That's true. And yeah, what about Turbina Pomerania? What are you doing there, and what kind of projects are you working on?
Well, I would say in Turbina Pomerania, I'm in my element
Okay.
because I've had some experience with volunteering, as I said, also with international volunteering. And first in 2012-13, I did an EVS, European Voluntary Service myself. I was in Romania. I was in a youth organization, really impressed by the country, what they're doing, and hanging around with a lot of international people, getting inspired. After that, I decided to come back to Belarus and to start working with an organization in the city of Grodno, which was really impressive for me, also working with different projects, education for older people, working with youth and young journalists as well. So many different spheres. And I came to them and I said, well, I would like to do something together with you. I would like to help. You're great. So my way of searching for opportunities. And in this case, it turned out to be even a job for me for some time. So I was also working with international volunteers. We were hosting volunteers there in Grodno, and we were sending people from Belarus to different projects, also to some projects here. Last year, for example, in Kristov, there was a volunteer from Belarus, Valeria. Yeah, and part of my job was also welcoming the volunteers coming to Belarus, showing how it's working, and also supporting them in their ideas, what they could do to develop Grodno, to do something which is interesting to them, but which also will be interesting for the local community. So that, for me, the volunteer experience was so inspiring that I wanted to do this volunteering experiences for people really great and amazing. In many ways it worked. Some of our volunteers got really inspired, stayed for some more years in Grodno and developed and did more and learned the language and so on. And then also when I decided to come here to Greifswald, I also wrote I know how volunteering works. We've been cooperating with Turbina Pomerania as my organization in Grodno, and say, let's do something great and amazing together. And there's usually also around, I think, 20 people together as volunteers coming every autumn to Greifswald right now with Turbina. They are international European volunteers of European Voluntary Service, like Crimea and Uica. We also have local volunteers, the German Voluntary Service, as they say. And every year you meet really great people having a dream, deciding also to come and to help. As you can say for yourself, like a form of activism, or trying to help, or trying to discover and learn in this way. So this is something that I do together with Turbina, working with people, helping them to have amazing experiences, learning experiences. And we also organize workshops, educational events. We also organize conferences. Yeah, this year we also had, instead of live conference, unfortunately online, but it was a great learning experience for us. And I think this format that we have also gives opportunity, and on one hand to be more inclusive and even more people to participate, to watch, to go online and participate in the discussion, also as a teaser, to come and see when it's able, when the borders are open, to come and to join such kind of events.
Mm-hmm.
What do you, so you talked a lot about volunteers and volunteering. So, what do you see being the most important, maybe important aspect of being a volunteer? What it gives the most? On the one hand, you get to work on these projects that need volunteers and that can't survive kind of without volunteers sometimes, because the work isn't. You wouldn't find another way of finding maybe people who would do the work. And on the other hand, for the volunteer, it also gives you this chance to, I guess, to see what's out there, to...
Yeah, well, I think volunteering, if I would imagine the world according to my ideals and views of how it would be cool and perfect and nice, quite for some time I've been reading some books and thinking and having discussion about like refusal of work or working less or having less jobs, and you probably have heard about this shitty jobs concepts, well, that so many people are just doing shitty or stupid jobs just because they need to get money and they need to have some job and so on. But if you're searching for something meaningful, it's sometimes hard or it's sometimes not really well paid and so on. Yeah, so if we take aside all of this terms of money and how to survive and so on, and put the world where people could do something meaningful, I think really the concept of volunteering is great in this way. Yeah, you're helping people, you're learning, you're getting to know great people, great activists, great initiatives, great ideas. And for example, it's also what I do with TED conferences. Yeah, I translate subtitles for TED videos, but we also organized several TEDx conferences in Grodno, TEDx Youth Conference, when young people have their ideas and they want to share, and we gather it and have some discussion and have some nice community around these ideas. And for example, now I'm helping some initiative in Mogilov in Belarus also to organize TEDx Live. Yeah, they have these videos from TED Live TED Global Conference, and we also do subtitles. We think about local experts or activists who could be involved in the discussion on some topics and somehow connect these ideas. You know, probably the slogan of TED conferences is ideas worth spreading. Yeah, so for me it's also like this volunteering when you connect people, ideas, communities, space. I think if we would live in a more humanistic and a more dreamy world, that everybody could be a volunteer and be active and help something meaningful, and then have a great life, learn a lot, and yeah, the whole society, the whole world would be much better if everybody would contribute to something which is important for them.
You talked about translating for the TEDx. You also mentioned you mentioned
Some
before
point I was
a
not
film festival.
even in
What's
Belarus,
called?
but doing that, yeah, so one of my favorite ways of volunteering when I'm not always in Belarus, but what I can still do, I'm crazy about languages. I love languages, learning them, teaching them and so on, and I always try to see if there's a way I could help with translating something. For example, that's how I started. I actually was in Romania on my EVS, and it turned out to be some more space for learning and some more time for myself, because before that I was working a lot and studying, and then I realized I could do something great. And at that time TED had a website with some videos, but they only started to be making subtitles to them. So at the very beginning TED had no subtitles, so you could only watch it if you know English. Not so many people in Belarus can like have a good level of English, and there were no subtitles. And I just wrote to them and said, hey guys, I saw that you start to develop this subtitles program. I would like to translate them into Belarusian. And then a discussion started. There was one more activist who spoke Belarusian and who wanted to do that. They connected us. We didn't know each other, and she was living in South Africa. I at that time was living in Romania, so we started to do this together. And then said, okay, well, we make some translations, so we promote it in Belarus, these great ideas. They come faster if we translate, and we tell about them, but we could also organize the TEDx events, so local TED conferences with local speakers, when they can share these ideas. So it's also how we did that. And another project then is Watchdocs Festival, like Watch and Docs documentaries. It's an international human rights documentary film festival. So the documentary films was covering topics of human rights, usually human rights violations, of course, if it's a documentary. And sometimes you have something funny or something good happening and you see great progress, but in many cases, unfortunately, these are more of sad experiences. And they make this festival in Belarus now for some years. I also know people that were doing this festival in Poland, and then they support the group in Belarus. And they organize this big festival in Minsk for some week or 2 weeks in December. And then they organize this big festival for 2 weeks in December, and also they take the films and they go to different places around Belarus, and they do the same in Poland, and they show these films and they decide about the topics which are important for this community, and they organize some discussions. And yeah, to show the different films from all around the world, you also need subtitles. That's part of the job I was also doing when I was all over the places around. And you can translate and show to the people and discuss. And I think this is a really great way. And if people would ask me, like sometimes people come and say, yeah, you have so much experience in volunteering. What can I start with? What can I do? I'd say, well, if you're not sure about anything, like something to start with, and also now if we will be shut down for a bit more, you can always do some kind of online activism, not just by writing posts on Facebook, everything is bad, but say, okay, what can I do? You can do some translation, at least to TED Talks. I invite everybody, basically in all the languages almost now in the world, so you can always join and translate. If you speak English, you translate into your native language, or you could also organize a TEDx conference. There's also a format for university TEDx conferences, which you can do, or youth TEDx formats when young people, or even sometimes they make it for children and kids, could organize and tell. So.
One thing that I've noticed, that I just thought about, was that being an EVS, European Voluntary Service volunteer, we meet up with other EVS volunteers every now and then. And one thing that I've noticed is that there tends to be quite a few volunteers from Belarus, more than I would expect. So, I mean, looking at the population, and there would be...
We're 10 million, it's not...
Yeah, but, but out of the group, or let's say there's 20 people, there would be like at least one, but like often two or more.
Yeah, I think I would say it's the same for me.
Yeah, like a lot of...
We did a great job promoting volunteering in Belarus, because in the past it was not so known, not so well known, not so popular, and also was also a bit of a challenge for young people who don't speak foreign languages, or who are not so sure about their foreign languages skills, to go somewhere. But now I think it's getting more and more popular. We're doing a great job because we also promote and we try to go to small towns and tell about this opportunity to young people. So saying this kind of work.
That's good.
So in light of the European Voluntary Service, which we've had experience, all of us, has there been like a difference between volunteering in Romania and like volunteering or dealing with volunteers here in Germany in terms of, I don't know?
Of course, yes and no. I don't so the different countries, different cultures and so on. I don't know.
What I've heard is that the conditions do vary from country to country. So I've heard that for EVS volunteers, that's the case that I've heard about in Germany, it tends to be more somehow, or better. Just that I've heard of there being not so nice experiences in some other places, and I've heard that in some countries, just because of the economic situation there, it might not be so or it might not be so well checked how the volunteers are handled. I mean, that's the only thing I can...
I think it's always the question also of expectations and reality. So what people expect of a voluntary service when they go somewhere. And also, of course, as a European Voluntary Service, so now the program is already called European Solidarity Corps, is you're working in NGOs, and in many cases, like for example in Christoph, the initiative that you're volunteering for is also itself a voluntary organization.
Yeah.
And sometimes it depends also on how much time and effort they have to put into working with the volunteer, helping, supporting, creating great learning experiences, and so on. So I think it's very different, and it doesn't really depend on the country. But maybe then to a bit of a remark, which I always advise to or talk about to people who want to do a voluntary service abroad, is to think once again what is your goal there, because sometimes young people just come and say, I want to go to some project in Spain because it's warm there, it's nice, and
Spain.
It's just Spain, you know, or I want to go to Germany because it's a very developed country, and I don't know, I could do cool stuff and maybe learn German and start to study in the university and so on. Well, such reasons can be present for sure, but I think if you're searching for a voluntary project, first of all, it's really great to think about what is important for you and what is interesting for you, and to think more about the activities there and about the people, what they're doing, why they're doing that, and if you really would fit into this group, and if you would really enjoy. It's not always about fitting, but just to make it enjoyable and meaningful. Like, would you do some of these activities if they would be happening in your town? If yes, and you would enjoy that, that would be a cool experience for you as well when you go on EVS. But if you just go randomly just because you like the name of the country, or you've been in Prague one time and it was really nice, and then you want to go to some small town in the north of Czech Republic and do something, then it can be a little bit of a different experience. Yeah, so I would just maybe advise to think about the project and the activity more, and the sense of this volunteering, than just about the country or how it is there and so on. I think what is specific for Greifswald, for example, for Turbina, that there's, I don't know, for me it was kind of a cultural shock that such a small town, like we have 75,000 people, 25 of them are students at the university.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that you have in such a small town such a huge concentration of very active people doing something, creating, being active, all kinds of groups according to all kinds of interests. And if you have an initiative, you could also almost always find a person who would be interested in that, so you could also do this. And I think if people would go to Greifswald for volunteering, as you might know, like you're doing it in Christoph, but you have an access to a whole community of other volunteers, other initiatives, and if something is interesting to you, you could always go and join and do something else with them. So I think in this way, talking specifically about Greifswald, because I was doing my EVS specifically in Cluj-Napoca in Romania, and this is also kind of a university town, a bit bigger town. And there you could also find a lot of students' initiative or youth work initiatives or voluntary projects. And then you have a project in some small village and people working in the kindergarten, and then it could be a really different experience for them. But it's also like, again, if you don't like kids, don't go there.
Yeah, I guess I would say the same about Greifswald. Like, you could easily get involved into different other projects apart from your own project, which is Christoph. And I think it's a really nice place to do a volunteering year in.
Yeah, and I think that's why also such festivals like Christoph can be really successful for Greifswald, because if you go just for a students' festival, you expect to meet many students from all around the world to learn something, but there's also always an opportunity, because Christoph is usually, and it is going to live in StraZe and to be part of these groups and hang out with other initiatives. You always have a chance to meet other people, to see what kind of great things can be done in a small town. So to get an inspiration and to find this. So I think it's really a great spot for learning and doing voluntary service here.
Hanka, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for doing this, for volunteering, for staying in Greifswald this year.
And yeah, we hope to see you soon. And good luck with your volunteering, exploring planet Earth.
To you too.